Hello and welcome to Kit's Photography for this time. This is the third episode in a series of 5 on Kangaroo Island. This one's a little bit different from the others. It's not so touristy, it's not interviews, it's purely a tutorial on how to photograph the Milky Way when there is no light pollution. So I hope you enjoy it. Hello and welcome to Kit's Photography. I'm Kit from Bremac Photography here in sunny South Australia. Welcome to my channel. So many of you would have seen that I have done a Milky Way tutorial before, but that was how to photograph the Milky Way while in an urban setting with lots of light pollution. This time it's none at all. Now this is not a perfect photograph exercise, this is just a tutorial on how to do it. So the photographs, they're not the best I could possibly do, but they're not too bad. So we went to a remote area on Kangaroo Island to take these photographs. We set everything up and it was very, very dark. Now it takes quite some time for your eyes to get accustomed to the light when it's this dark. Up to 45 minutes in fact, but we didn't really spend that long doing it. In saying all that though, it's really important to allow your eyes to adjust to it because you want to try and get as little light pollution as possible, and even a torch could affect those photographs. One thing I didn't take with me, I actually forgot to take it with me, was my remote shutter release. So I had to actually push the camera to take the photographs, which meant that I really didn't want to take too long a shutter speed photograph, just because it could have made that little bit of difference in camera shank. But still the photographs came out really nicely indeed. And it's really important to actually go out and spend some time, and if you can find an area where there is no light pollution, it's great. Just remember safety first. Make sure you go out with more than one person. A group is fantastic because if something happens, if you fall over and hurt yourself or get lost, you've got someone else there to help you. That's absolutely essential. Now, the other thing as well is, you'll see about halfway through the video that my cameraman and I heard something in the bushes about 100 meters away. And so he said, let's go and have a look, and he ran off, leaving me behind. So I chased after, and you'll have to wait and see for what it is.
It's just standing still for a minute, whatever it is. You just have to remember there's nothing big enough to worry. No, except wild pigs.
Really?
Okay. Not down this end of the island.
So it's just past 11 PM here. You might be able to hear some koalas in the background being a bit amorous, making a lot of noise. It's actually really scary out here because all I can see is just the light from the camera here. There's nothing else. There's no other light around here at all, in the middle of nowhere. Here on Kangaroo Island, obviously. And it's a perfect night to take a photograph of the Milky Way. Now the Milky Way today is about this direction over here. And so what I'm going to try and capture is the Milky Way itself with trees in the background, because it's actually quite low on the horizon, because it has been cloudy today, but the clouds have now cleared. I'm going to try and capture the Milky Way with the beautiful, beautiful gum trees there as well. Now the way to do this, your camera needs to be set on manual, obviously. I've got 15 seconds I'm going to start at. I've got my aperture at 1.4. Obviously you want the lowest possible aperture to get as much light in as possible, and preferably a lens which is quite a short focal length. So 24 is fantastic, even 16 is great, but I've got a 50 here. 50 is perfectly fine. And fully manual. RAW is also really important here because you don't want to have really important details taken away by the JPEG or TIFF files. So one thing I haven't brought with me this time, which I normally have used for my tutorials, is a bulb shutter release. So I'm going to have to do it by actually touching the camera, which means there might be a little bit of movement, but hopefully it won't be. So first thing I'm going to do now is try and take a photograph. So let's have a look. So I've pushed that now. We're going to wait 15 seconds and just see how this goes. Now, really, the thing about the Milky Way is you can't really see what you're doing on the back of the camera at all. I should also say that I've set the focal length here at infinity, so it's focusing on the stars. And the next one I do, I'm going to use the display on the back so you can get a clear view. Now, the other thing is we'll always make sure that it finishes doing its noise reduction, and the image is absolutely fantastic. Now, I think I probably can lower down. I've got the ISO here set at 6400, and I'm going to lower that down to 2500 now, and I'm going to try the same thing again. 15 seconds, because I've got a lot of light showing there. I think I've got too much light, in fact. So it's one of these things, when there's no light around, it's really good to experiment and try again. In a minute, I'm going to turn the camera light off and try just like that, so there isn't any interference from this light, because these photographs will be affected by that light. So photograph taken now. There we go. Fantastic. I reckon I can lower it down again. So let's try bringing that down to 1000. I'm going to try 1000, and then I'm going to do it without the light on. So many noises around here. The koala's making a noise, and for those people who don't live in Australia, koalas make the most terrifying guttural. They sound like a terrifying monster, and when you can't see anything and it's just all pitch black, it can be really scary. But at least we know there's a koala tree over there, so it's all good. Fantastic. Okay. Now there's another thing I'm going to try here now, which is I'm going to reduce the shutter speed, and I'm going to make it 5 seconds, and I'm going to raise that ISO to 6400, and now I'm going to turn the light off. So now it's really, really dark. You probably can't see me anymore, but since I've done that, I can actually see the Milky Way directly up above. It's quite amazing. That's beginning to freak me out. If I was out here by myself right now, I'd be having a heart attack.
Let's go and have a look. Standing still for a minute, whatever it is. You just have to remember there's nothing big enough to worry.
No, I know.
Except wild pigs.
Really?
No, not down this end of the island. No, it's definitely a koala.
Yeah. Definitely something out there. Yeah. What I'm doing now, I've put this onto live view mode here, so it is producing a bit of light here, but I'll turn that off in just a second. I'm going to actually lock off the viewfinder so it can't bring any extra light into the camera. Now, as I said, the Milky Way is out this way. Can you see me all right there?
Yeah.
Yep, good, good, good. And I'm going to photograph the Milky Way up here, but because it's really dark now, it'll work beautifully. So I've set all the same sort of settings here. I've got the ISO is 6400. This is for 5 seconds. I'm going to try it out, and we'll see how we go. So I'm actually going to cover that up now, and here we go. We'll see how this goes. It is so amazing here. as your eyes get used to the darkness, you can actually see by the Milky Way. It's quite remarkable. Now let's have a look at that. Wow. Okay, the thing about this, it's always something you need to adjust and figure out a little bit. So I'm going to tilt this up now just a little bit, raise this up so the Milky Way is a little bit more centered, and we'll try it again. I think I've gone a little bit too high now, so I'm going to bring that down again. Just try and get it exactly where I want it. And try that again. Now it's all trial and error. You might have to do this 20, 30 times before you get it right. But it is the best way to do it because you will eventually get a fantastic photograph. I can see cloud coming and moving in now, so it might be a little bit, getting a little bit too late. Now I'm going to make a few little adjustments here. One of the things is because it's so bright, the Milky Way is so bright because there's no other light at all, we can really make it look absolutely spectacular. So I'm now going to lower the ISO down to 100 and I'm going to adjust the shutter speed down to 15 seconds. Let's see how we go here. So lowering that ISO down will just mean that the sensor gets a little bit less sensitive and will pick up really bright light that's there rather than just everything. Again, wait for your camera to do its processing. It's really important. On long photographs, this might take a few minutes to do the processing. Now, 100 is definitely too low, so I'm going to raise it up again, and I'm going to do it now at 1000 and see how we go there. Again, this is all experimentation. Your camera might be different from my camera. My camera can pick up extremely low light. Most cameras can't do that to the same extent. So it's what suits yours best. But most people agree that 6400 is a really good ISO. Now that's actually pretty good, but what I'm going to do now, just to finish it off, this is a fantastic photograph actually, it's a beautiful photograph. What I'm going to do though is because there's a tree line in the background there and they're a little bit blurred, so I'm going to speed the shutter speed up again to 5 seconds, and then I'm going to raise the ISO up to 2000 and see how we go there. And just remember when you're doing this, you might look at the back of your camera and see a great photograph. That doesn't necessarily mean you're going to get a good photograph in the end, because it's really in the processing that you discover the really beautiful photographs. Okay, so I'm going to click it too quickly, then I'm going to do one last photograph now. And I reckon 5 seconds is really good, but I'm going to raise that ISO again. And I'm going to raise it up to 6400 and just do one final one like this, because it seems to be the best and it looks absolutely spectacular. It's always great to do this in the middle of nowhere, and I mean at the moment it was pitch black before, but now it's really getting bright. There's no moon at all, which means all you can see is the stars. Perfect. Absolutely perfect. Now just for good luck, I'm going to do it one last time. Wonderful. It really is worth going out and taking photographs like this at night, because you do get some really, really fantastic photographs, and it's a great night for it. It's not too, the humidity's not too high. It's very, very dark. There's very little light around the place, and I mean really I can't see any town lights really at all, and it's lovely. It's absolutely perfect, absolutely perfect. So we'll get back to the daytime now. So I'm going to try one final thing here before we call it a night, and that is I've got my iPhone 11 Pro Max here, and I'm going to see whether I can take a photograph of the Milky Way using my phone hand holding it. Now The best this one here can do is 3 seconds, from what I understand, which is still pretty long for an iPhone. And, you know, it probably won't be perfect, but let's see if we can actually do it. So I'm going to hold it up, point it in the right direction, and let's try this. It's not perfect, but there's a picture of the Milky Way. It's pretty hard to see, but if I grab the editing tools out and... okay. So it's not the best photograph in the world, and keeping in mind it is handheld, but there is a photograph of the Milky Way taken with an iPhone, so it is possible. Okay, so these are my photographs of the Milky Way, and you can see they're all quite different, and obviously during my video I did take them differently on purpose. You can never really trust what comes out of the back of the camera, but what you can do is adjust them a lot in post. So I've got one here that's quite overexposed, and I'll show you how you can keep this sort of photograph. So let's take the highlights down, take shadows down, brightness right down, contrast right up, exposure up, and there you have an image which is quite successful of the Milky Way, with the trees as a bit of a frame. Now we can make some more adjustments. Let's pick one which looks pretty good straight out of the camera. You can edit that up, take the exposure right up, contrast up, brightness down. Now we might need to adjust these things very slowly just to try and get somewhere which is just in between. And the big point here is you can see there are lots of little purple points, and they're the really super bright stars, and you don't want those to stand out too much. So what you can actually do is get those to mix in a little bit, just until they're just about right. And you see, I really want I really, really want the trees in here to stand out. And that's not too difficult. It's just finding a good balance point where you can see the trees, but they're also not in the way. Now let's have a look at another one. Now I reckon this one here might be okay. It's a little bit different again. So again, you can just do this automatically if you like, with all the settings adjusted automatically, but I prefer to do it manually. Take the exposure right up, just the highlights until things start to appear where you want them. This one here is going to be a little bit too overblown. You'll see this one here has a lot of trees just here, and those trees are really lovely. So I'm only going to make some really minor adjustments this time, turning the exposure right up, and then I'm going to bring some shadows down. I'm also going to lift the contrast up quite a bit, so you can really see a difference between the trees and the Milky Way there. Bring those shadows down a bit, bring the brightness down just a little bit, and then just work the exposure down, brightness up again a little bit, again because I want to be able to see the difference between the trees and the Milky Way itself. And then I'm going to add a bit of extra colour to it. You can in fact take the colour away and it still looks really good, but I'm going to bring a bit of extra colour in and just make those levels really, really nice until I get some. Whoa, that wasn't supposed to happen. Until I get something that's just perfect. It's basically all just trial and error, figuring out what things you can change and where, and just finding a happy medium between them all. And I reckon that's it just there. Well, that's about it for Kit's photography for this time. Thanks for sticking with me so far. Please don't forget to like and subscribe. Those subscribers are really important. Over 100 subscribers now, so thank you very much, everybody. It's greatly appreciated, but please, please, please just slap that subscribe button. Now, next time, Flinders Chase. Now, Flinders Chase was remarkably damaged by the bushfires in 2019 and 2020. There's so little left of what used to be there. Some of the foliage is growing back, but the majority is just left. All the seeds in the ground have been lost. Everything is just gone. And one of the ramifications of this is the wind. There's just incredible winds with painful pieces of dust that whack everything and get caught in absolutely everything all the time. And that's because there's no trees to stop the wind. So join me next week when I go to Flinders Chase. Until then, I'll see you next time.